Hi, everyone. Welcome. Thanks so much for joining us today. I'm Julia Hammond. I'm a business development executive at Integral, and I'm here with Dexter Hardy, president and CTO of Integral.
Hi, Julia. Thanks for that intro. Integral, we are an Atlanta-based IT and consulting organization with 20 years of consulting experience. We have over 200 solutions in the Azure marketplace that are sold globally, and these enterprise workload solutions support both um, large businesses, government, and nonprofits.
All right, and today we're going to demonstrate a live migration of SQL Server 2022 on Ubuntu 20.04 on Azure. And the most exciting part about this is that we're going to show that an end-to-end demonstration is only going to take 30 minutes. And any DevOps or IT person can attest to the fact that a process like this takes weeks, even months, depending on the complexity of the migration and the resources that you have. And then at the end of this migration, we'll do a 10-minute Q&A, and also feel free to drop questions in the chat during the migration. So let's get started.
Awesome. With that said, we're going to jump right into the demo. For anybody familiar with the Azure portal, we're going to open up a link to our, we're going to open up a link to the portal, and we're going to actually install our solution. We're installing it from our backend, but this is the same solution that is available in the Azure Marketplace. And what I'm going to do now is I'm actually going to create this VM. There's a couple of steps to this. You can either choose SSH or password. For the demo, I'm going to just use password for authentication. And then the rest of the settings we're going to just leave as default. And there are several different configurations like networking. You can put it in an existing network. You can put it behind other services that are running in Azure. But for the sake of this demo, I'm going to keep it simple and just install the default offering that we have. And once that validates all of our settings, I'm going to click create, and that'll spin up our VM.
Awesome. So one question, if I'm still using an older version of SQL Server, do you have any other products that can do a similar job?
Absolutely. So we have SQL Server running on SQL Server 2019 running on Ubuntu. We have it also running on Oracle Linux, Red Hat Linux, SUSE, and we also have some containers out there for people who've already transitioned from VMs to containers, and we have that running on Ubuntu 18.04.
Awesome, thank you.
So as a couple of things that you'll see in this migration is this scenario will help people who are in that transition phase. They have an on-prem database and they want to migrate from on-prem to the cloud, or if they haven't had a chance to upscale their resources and learn some of the great things that are out there in Azure, which is ADF, and understand the complexities and nuances of Databricks. They can do what's called a lift and shift, and that's what we're going to display today. So the VM is spun up. So now what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to SSH to that machine. You can use different protocols to connect, but for the sake of this demo, we're going to SSH, which is just copy that command out, paste it in. It's going to ask me to verify the fingerprint. I'm going to enter the password. This is the password that I used when I created the machine. And so with that, I am on the machine. I am going to run a command just to verify which version of the operating system we're running. So you can see there is 20.04. I'm also going to run a command to show our default install of SQL Server is here. So as you can see, the SQL Server is on the machine, but it's not configured. And we do that for security purposes. Obviously, we want to let you have ultimate say in what you want to see on your machine or which version of the database you want on your machine. And the service is not started by default. For the purpose of this demo, I'm actually going to install the dev tools as well. So I'm going to do that before I start it. And again, instead of you having to watch me type these commands into the screen, I've actually just copying and pasting them from our script. We can automate a lot of this because it is Linux, and you can run shell scripts to do some of these components, but we didn't want it to be like a cooking series where we just have one side and then open up the other side and it's already done. We're actually walking through the actual steps. So two more commands here and I'll have all of the tools installed.
Okay.
And we'll see this last command, you'll see that the demo tools are installed. So now we see that we have the SQL Server command line tools, the version, and there are other commands you can run with this tool, but that's there.
Great. So while we're talking about SQL, can you tell us a little bit more about our data management capabilities that we have available in the Azure Marketplace?
Absolutely. So we have several different database tools that are out there. We have relational database management systems, NoSQL, and those can also be configured for data warehousing as well. So, like I said, for this one, and all of those solutions are available on Azure Cloud and Azure Government.
Great, thank you.
So now back to the demo. What I'm going to do now is I'm actually going to run a command to set up a default SA password for this machine and install the actual version of the machine. So this is what I was saying before, that we can install any version of SQL Server from our image. But for this demo, we're going to do the eval. So I'll select one, and then we'll let that do its configuration.
All right. So while that's configuring, I wanted to take a moment and talk about the CyberReady MBE designation program. And Integral has been awarded the CyberReady MBE designation by the National Minority Supplier Development Council. So what that means is we've been trained and recognized for having the highest cybersecurity standards. So our clients can be sure that all of our solutions implement the best practices for securing networks, endpoints, and sensitive data, and that they have an incident response plan to mitigate the impact of a cybersecurity attack or breach.
Okay, awesome. Thanks for that. So the database is now up and running. And so now I'm going to run a couple more commands actually the command I ran earlier, just checks the status of the machine on Linux. You can see now that the machine is running and configured with the password that we had. And like I said, from a best practice perspective, we're actually going to migrate this from my local machine, which would be simulating the backup file that we've created of our database in the data center or on-prem. And for the sake of this demo, we didn't do an actual backup. We're using the AdventureWorks database. That's a fictitious company that exists, and Microsoft has different schemas associated with that database. I'm going to move that file from this local machine to the server, which is running in the cloud. And I'll just put in the IP address for the machine. It's going to ask me for the password. And so with that, the file is moving from our local machine to the machine in the cloud.
Awesome. So we do have some questions while that's spinning up. Can you tell us how the solution has been optimized by Integral?
Okay. So, like I said, with the 20 years of experience we have, we've taken a lot of our lessons learned around implementation, what's hard, what's easy with regard to the implementation, and we wanted to make sure that we bottle that into the product. So, having to have as little understanding about Azure, you can click on Get It Now, and obviously filling out the forms on the machine, on the portal, you have your machine up and going. So a lot of those lessons learned and knowledge is baked into the product.
Thank you.
All right, so with that said, the file has moved to the machine. I'll just run ls to see that it's actually on the machine. Now I am going to switch to the administrative user, because what we're doing is in this lift and shift, we're actually taking a backup file, moving it to creating a backup location. And I'm going to move that backup file to the SQL Server backup location. All right. And with that, I'm going to exit out of super user mode. And then here's where the rubber meets the road. I'm going to actually log in using those SQL tools, using the SA password that was created during the configuration. And we're into the machine.
Excellent. All right. So Dexter, earlier on one of the slides, the slide mentioned that we have Microsoft preferred solutions. Do you want to go into a little bit more detail about what that means?
Yeah, several of our solutions are preferred within the Azure Marketplace, and that means that we have done the diligence of one, becoming a Microsoft partner, fulfilling the requirements to be part of their partner network, and then we've taken an additional step to get those solutions qualified and set up for access within the Azure Marketplace as a preferred solution. So with that said, I'm going to drop right back into the demo where we were. We left off. We had logged into the actual machine running on Azure. And I'm going to run a command against SQL Server. This is another, just to list what is part of the backup files. And I know that this is a small screen, but hopefully you'll see here that this is the database. Here are the backup files that were on this machine, and you can see a C program, SQL Server, which means that it was on a Windows machine. And here's the log file. Now, here's where the rubber meets the road. So I'm going to restore this database using the SQL command tools that are here. And again, this is, you want to make sure, the reason I pulled that list file is when you do your backups, it'll list out what the name of the file is and what the log file name was, just in case the database was a little bit named or said something different. And then with that, we'll click go.
Awesome. So we do have another question. Could you share a use case for the SQL Server 2022 on Ubuntu on Azure?
Absolutely. So a use case for that would be, again, you have your database on another cloud or a data center. You have resources or allocated resources for Azure, and you want to move, let's say the hardware that your machine is on is going to be retired, and you guys need to move that to the cloud. So this solution would allow one to get you to Azure and take advantage of those resources that you have. And then the second piece is you would be able to migrate or upgrade those solutions right there.
Excellent, thank you.
So in that, this actually tells us how long it took for the restore to take. It only took 3.23 seconds. And now what I'm going to do is, instead of staying in the tool, I'm actually going to go to the machine, I'm going to open up a SQL port. And again, this is not open by default for security reasons. Obviously, we want to make sure that this is secure. And, depending on where you're connecting to for your database, you want to make sure that those connections are secure and open, are secure, and follow your best practices. What I'm going to use is another tool by Microsoft is the Azure Data Studio. And I'm going to connect to that machine using it. So what I'll do is from here, I just opened up a network port to that machine. So I'm just copying that out. And then I'm going to log in using the SA password that I created through the configuration. It's going to ask me to accept the security certificate for the actual machine.
While Dexter's doing that, I mentioned before the Cyber Ready MBE designation, and I just wanted to touch on a couple benefits of that designation. So MBE stands for Minority Business Enterprise, and first benefit is going to be Supplier Diversity Initiative. If your company has any DEI goals, they can absolutely be fulfilled by engaging with the MBE supplier. Second, it can give a competitive advantage with government and private sector organizations that have diversity initiatives and require a certain percentage of their spend to MBEs. So this allows you to get more out of your procurement process. And by engaging with an MBE, and especially in the case of a cyber ready MBE, your business can improve its cybersecurity posture while supporting diversity and inclusion initiatives.
Okay, well, thanks for that. So back to the demo. Now you can see I've connected to the actual machine. The database has been restored, the file size, the log file size. I can actually drill down and see which databases, and this is the database that we just restored to this machine. I'll click on one of the tables and just make sure that the data and everything moved over. So I'll just go, again, this is a schema that has different schemas in it, HR, person. So I'll select the person table and I'll run a select statement against it. And here you go. Here are the records from the database that have been restored. This is the exact same database that was running on a Windows machine, and now it's running in the cloud. So there you have it.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for that end-to-end demonstration, Dexter. We can check the chat. Let's see if we have any other questions that I had here. Can you tell us about a customer favorite integral solution?
So one of our favorite solutions is our Ubuntu desktop. We have it running on both 20.04 and 22.04. That gives customers the ability to have both a desktop experience while using Linux, and it uses RDP to connect to the database. So if you guys have any questions about the migration or any of the stuff that you've seen today, you can also you can reach out to our customer success team.
All right, thank you. Any key takeaways you wanted to leave us with?
Yeah, so a couple of key takeaways to look at with regards to any migration or any upgrade that you're doing. You want to check the compatibility of your system. Just make sure that the current features and functionality that you have are supported in the database. Two, this was a Windows to Linux migration, and so we followed the best practices for that. That is to do a backup, put your credentials in the machine, and then restore the database that way. And again, for customers who need to do this way, we have to install the security tools. You can also, or the database tools, or command line tools. You can take those tools off once you've restored, just to reduce that profile on the machines. But again, this was a lift and shift within 30 minutes, and we wanted to make sure that you guys were able to see it live. If you have any questions?
Right. Yeah, open to any questions in the chat at all. And if there are any questions after this event, we have all our solutions and services, or any questions about our solutions and services, you can reach us at success@integral.com. Really hope to hear from you. And we also provide support for all of our solutions at success@integral.com. And you can learn all about us on our website, integral.com. And we really appreciate everyone joining us today, attending our LinkedIn Live session. And we hope to be in contact, continue interacting with you.
Okay. So yeah, we'll wait a couple more seconds to see if there's anything that comes in the chat. Well, we really appreciate you guys spending these 30 minutes with us to kind of go over some of our solutions and services that we offer. And again, like Julia said, if you want to reach out to us, you can reach us at success@integral.com.
Thank you, Dexter.
Awesome. Thank you, everyone. Have a great day.